Hello everyone, this is Alistair here and welcome back to another problem of the day. And today's problem is titled subsets and it asks us to use some form of backtracking or recursion approach. So let's have a look at the problem itself. So in this problem you are given an array and you have to calculate all the subsets that you can generate from the given elements in the array. So in this example, one of the element is a null element, then there's 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 3 2 2 3 and 3. So in order to go about the problem, we'll be using recursion obviously since we are asked to do that. So let's have a look as to how we'll be using recursion. So as you may know that every recursion problem has a recursion tree associated with it. So let's try and understand the problem from the recursion tree itself. So let's say I create a function wherein I'll pass an index value which will be using to, well, not an index value, a variable which will be using to keep track of all the elements that you have considered. And then I'll be using, for example, a empty array, empty vector or array. So what I'll do is I'll first off, let me write the array itself. So I have 1 2 3 as my array elements. So in the first recursion call, I'll simply include the first element and I'll be starting this I variable with 0. So this would be 1 and I'll be including the first element, that is 1. In the second recursion call, there will be two recursion calls. First is to include the element and second is to exclude the element and then continue. So I'll be incrementing my this variable and I'll pass the array as it is, the answer array as it is. After that, I'll again move on to this recursion, include the next element, exclude that included element, increment my pointer to 2, and I'll add in the next number, that is 2 in this case. So my array would contain 1 comma 2, and here again I'll include, and my array would contain 1 itself. Now after doing this, I'll let me shift this. Yeah, after doing this, I'll again call in this function, increment my pointer to 3, include the next element, that is 1 2 and 3, exclude the next element, exclude the included element, that is 3, that would be 3 here, and 1 and 2. Now after this is done, I'll have a check to see if this incremented value is equal to my array size or not, and if that is the case, then I'll simply print out this element. So I'll be printing out 1 comma 2 comma 3 here in this case, and I'll be printing out 1 comma 2 in this case. Now coming to the right sub part, I'll include the first element, increment its value, increment the pointer value 3, include the next element, that is 1 and 3, since I've excluded 2 here in this case. And for the exclusion part, I'll simply increment and exclude 3 over here, so 1 will be remaining. And as you can see, again my variable, the pointer, has incremented to 3 and it is equal to my array size. So I'll be printing out the value 1 comma 3 and 1. Now similarly for here, I'll be, let me shift it here over here. Yeah, so this is my left sub part, right sub part, and this is my left sub part. So I'll be incrementing the value. Since I've excluded 1 in this case, I'll be including 2 directly, and since I have included 2 over here for the right sub part, I'll be excluding 2, so it would be empty array as it is. Then coming to the two function calls for this function, I'll be incrementing the variable, it would be 3. I'll be including the next number, that is 3, and I'll exclude the 3 itself that has been included here. so it would be 3 and 2 itself. So since it is 3 over here, I'll print out 2 comma 3, and since it is 3 over here, I'll print out what is there in the vector, that is 2. Now after doing this, again I'll do the same for the last subpart. So I'll include the first element, include the next element, and exclude the included element. So my pointer would be increased to 3, and since I've excluded 2 over here and have not included 3, I'll be including 3 over here. And again here, since I've included 3 over here, I'll be excluding 3. So I'll get, let me shift it. So I'll get an empty array, and since my variable has become equal to the array size, I'll print it out, and this is my empty array. So these are the subsets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you look closely, for the given example, we have the same number of subsets, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now let's jump right onto the code because it would be much more clearer in the code itself. So for this code, let's first create a helper variable, and yeah, let's first create a helper variable. We'll be performing our recursion. So when this helper variable will take in the value int, I mean not the value int but the array itself, and we'll have our pointer to check if we have reached the array size. So we'll represent it by I. Also, let's create class variables to store in the final result as well as the intermediary result, since we have to return a vector of vectors in this case, that is the vector of individual list inside. We have to return them basically within this function. So that's why we'll create a vector of vector as a class variable. Let's call it result. Also we'll create another vector wherein we'll be storing our intermediate results, and let's call it the current value. Now we have to call our helper function inside our subsets method, right? So what we'll do is we'll call it here, pass in our vector a and the value 0, since we'll be starting with the 0th element and we'll be moving up. So our base case, well, let's first return the value itself. We'll be returning the value that will be appending in a res variable, res vector. So we'll be returning that. Now for a base condition, we'll be checking if I is greater or equal to the size of the array. So if that is the case, we'll simply push in the values, that is res.push underscore back our current list, current vector, and we'll simply return. And for the next steps, we'll simply first include the element and push it in our current vector. So we'll include array of I, and after doing that, we'll call the helper method again, just as we discussed here. We'll call it again and again. So we'll call for a and increment our I, and then we'll be removing that element for the next subpart, that is the right subpart. We'll be removing the element. For that we'll use current.pop underscore back. After doing this, we'll again call a helper method and increment our value. After doing this, yeah, we'll be storing our results, all the consecutive results in a res variable, and let's try and run it. After running, I guess we'll have our results. Okay, so it's showing me a wrong answer, but I don't think they have missed anything. Alright, so I guess they have sorted this result, so we'll simply sort the result ourselves. We'll take in res.begin. Let's try and run it now. Alright, so we got the answer. Let's try and submit. Okay, so that was it for today's video. If you have any doubts, you can ask them in the comment section, and thank you for watching.